I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this episode is being recorded and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Welcome to Can I Get a Refill, the podcast that offers a nurturing and inspirational space for honest and open discussions around career aspirations, wealth creation, motherhood, healthy relationships with others and the self, as well as an emphasis on physical, mental and spiritual well-being. Join us for light-hearted, authentic chats with like-minded women, as well as more in-depth discussions with industry professionals to support your ambitions and heal old wounds, as we empower you to regularly fill up your own cup. I'm your host, Steph Bruno-Newton, singer, writer, recovering people pleaser, first-time podcast host, and first-time mum. Thank you for pressing play today, and now let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. We have a very special episode for you today. We're talking all things postpartum recovery with the Virtual Nutritionist Latoya Cruz. Latoya, welcome back to the podcast, I should say.
Thank you for having me.
If you're a regular listener, you might mean, what do you mean she's back to the podcast? We recorded what would have been my third episode in April with yourself and Jessie, the naturopath. And unfortunately, because A, I was so new and didn't know the equipment very well, and B, Mercury was in retrograde, which always stuffs up communication and technology, the audio didn't record. And we had such a great episode and we had to scrap the whole thing, and I still haven't gotten over it. So I waited till August was over and the next Mercury in retrograde was done, and now you're back in September. And you have, gone through postpartum twice. I'm postpartum at the moment, and a lot of the listeners are too. So we're going to talk all that. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and the services you offer your clients?
Sure. So I am a qualified nutritionist and also a mum of two. And so
we actually have one child here today. So if you hear noises, we've got Leo in the background again, and we've got Isabella standing right here next to me wanting to be part of it.
So hopefully they keep it quiet for us. No. So I am a qualified nutritionist. I run an online business called the Virtual Nutritionist. Mm-hmm. So I service basically mums, all things mums. So it's your journey from trying to conceive through to pregnancy, through to postpartum, but even the years beyond that where you're that busy, burnt-out mum that's needing that extra support.
Yeah.
So basically women's health is my main focus, where we look at things like hormones, we look at things like cortisol, but also
which is
fertility.
such a buzz thing at the moment. Like I feel like years ago no one really talked about that, and then cortisol was just the buzzword because I kept getting adrenal fatigue, and lifestyle years ago was a lot calmer, and I just feel like we're all trying to be the working mums and the entrepreneurs, and
definitely
we're all burnt out.
The world's shifted.
Yeah, it has. Okay, now before we get into the questions, I actually wanted to bring up with you, I recently had a manifesting episode, and you know what I'm going to say. You called me the other day and I like to hear stories of other people manifesting. It makes, I know it works for me, but when I hear other people, I'm like, yes, it really works. Please tell me, you had a very good little manifesting story after you listened to our manifesting podcast. Tell me about that.
So I listened to your podcast. I've heard about manifesting, and, I used to play a lot of sport. And so back then it used to be a lot about sports psychology, which was all about visualizing.
Yeah, they all do that.
And so understanding more about manifestation through your podcast and visualization, I entered this competition on Instagram. And so it was the Breville Times Mason Balzic giveaway.
Yep.
They were giving away this brand new coffee machine for, I think it's worth $3,600.
Oh, it's so good.
Plus all this amazing Balsic glassware. So right up my alley.
Yeah, I love this.
I really wanted it. And so I entered the competition. I kept going back to the giveaway to see if they had announced it and what was happening. And I visualized myself telling my husband, I've just won us a new coffee machine.
I feel like that's the clincher, when you really visualize the end result.
Yes. Anyway, so come Friday afternoon, Breville tried to add me on Instagram. And at first I thought it was a spam account, so I didn't acknowledge it. I just thought, it's one of those spam accounts. I never win anything. And no, it turned out to be, it was the real deal and I won the competition.
Amazing. And they followed you. That's even, that's
so
amazing. But that's so good. Like you just felt so excited about it and like you just, it's almost like you just know it's yours. You're just waiting to hear back that it's yours. You know, like the way you told me, that's what it sounded like.
Exactly.
And now great coffee every day.
Great coffee and great glassware.
That is so good. I love that. I wanted to start with that so everyone knows how much manifesting works. And if you have your own manifesting story, please DM me. I'll read it out. Okay, you mentioned on your Instagram page, I'll link everything in the show notes for everyone to find you, that the first 40 days postpartum shapes the next 40 years. Talk us through that.
So this is traditional Chinese medicine theory as well as an Ayurvedic theory. But now there's research that backs it.
Okay.
So your first 40 days postpartum, there's a lot going on. You're recovering from childbirth, your milk's coming in if you're breastfeeding, your hormones are surging, there's lots and lots happening. You're, prone for things like postpartum depletion, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety.
Yeah.
But on top of all of that, your brain is actually rewiring itself within the first 40 days. So what the whole theory is based upon is in the first 40 days, if your brain perceives it to be a really stressful time, very overwhelming time, a very sort of depleting time where you kind of like got nothing to give in the tank, that's what your brain's going to be like for the next 40 years.
Oh, God, really?
Really? That's what the theory
Lord.
is, yeah. Whereas if you're entering into a postpartum where it's calm, it's joyous, you're relaxed, you're able to relax, you're able to recover, then your brain is entering the next 40 years with that state of mind.
Do you know what? I have a whole group of friends who are all of Asian descent. So some Chinese, Cambodian, Vietnamese. When I went straight back out with Leo a week after he was born, everyone's looking at me like I was crazy. Like, are you okay? Like, how are you recovering? I can't believe you're out. They have something, it's 40 days where they do incubation period where they don't leave their house.
Yes.
And I've said before I loved my time in the hospital because Alan was sick. I sent him home and I was 5 days just laying down to the point that I got bed sores. But I really bonded with him. I really felt like my body was healing. It was just it's a beautiful time that sometimes when I'm doing late night feeds, I still think back to that week, how nice it was.
Yeah.
And then I came home and I'm like, no, I feel great. And I'm, running around and doing things. But then the overwhelm creeps in and I'm feeling like, everyone wants to catch up and I'm finding it overwhelming. Yeah, like the emotion. So perhaps I did wrong by going out again so quick. I sort of just felt like I wanted to sort of get back into my normal life. But
yes. And see, that's the thing. It's firstly Western culture. It's embedded into us. There is no rest time. There is no downtime. Okay, you had a baby yesterday. You're back to normal life tomorrow. Whereas Eastern culture really does adapt to that incubation period where the first 40 days, it's all about nurturing the baby. It's nurturing the bond between mother and baby.
And the mum.
But it's also nurturing the new mother.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of the really like extended families and a lot of the women rally around the mum and help her and hold the baby and now I get it. Now I get why. Hi, Isabella. Now I understand why. They're supporting the mother.
It is because not only is it the birth of the baby, it's also the birth of the mother.
Oh, say that again. I'm going to be Oprah and go, say that line again.
It's not only the birth of the baby, it's also the birth of the mother.
I feel like I'm going to cry when you said that line. I feel like old Steph's gone.
Yes.
She's not coming back, maybe in 18 years. And it's new Steph, and I'm trying to navigate. I'm trying to be what I can for him, but I'm trying to navigate working out who this new Steph is as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, especially as a first-time mum, you head into motherhood not thinking about that or not knowing that.
Oh my God, you don't. You think like the week ahead, or you think, you know what a lot of us new mums did? We were thinking about the birth and it being in the hospital, and then you got home and you're like, shit, what do I do now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember
I don't think I planned ahead enough because I didn't want to overwhelm myself.
That's right. And like I remember when I was pregnant with Isla, who's my eldest.
Yeah.
All I could think about was labour, and all I could think about was preparing my mind for labour.
Okay, because it's your first.
It's your first.
And you didn't do that with Isabella.
No, with Isabella, I don't think I really thought about labour once. Like I thought about
you didn't know what's to come.
That's right. I thought about, okay, I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
I kind of had a rough idea of how I wanted to birth, but I also know that once you're in that labour room, absolutely anything can happen. It's not in your control.
Yes.
But what I can control is my postpartum.
Yes.
And so I put a lot of prep into my postpartum with Isabella. I put a lot of thought into things like, what am I going to be eating? What's my daughter going to be eating? even down to my husband, okay, this is what my expectations are. Are you able to just help out with X, Y, Z? Because I don't want to have to do any of this in the first initial 6 weeks.
And I would imagine this is what you take your clients through as well.
Yes, absolutely.
That's really smart that you said that, because when you're in the hospital, we're all trying to plan the birth. We needn't bother because there's so many trained medical staff there. That's their job. So
that's right.
I tried to go in with whatever happens, they're going to take care of it and put trust in them. But yeah, I didn't plan the postpartum enough.
Yeah.
And I know people talked about food services and stuff like that in our parenting classes, and I got a little group chat. I don't do group chats, but I've just stayed in the parenting class one because it's good to lean on each other.
Absolutely.
And it's like we're learning all that now, and they were all, you got to get the food services. They were spot on because Alan loves cooking, but you're in survival mode.
Absolutely.
Like you don't want to do like gourmet cuisines when you're in survival mode.
Definitely. And like when I first had Isla, I was like a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
Like it was like overwhelmed. It's like, what is this? You have no idea what to expect. You're really thrown in the deep end. I feel like nothing.
That's what I felt like when I came home.
It.
Not in the hospital when I'm buzzing the midwives at 2 a.m.
That's right.
They help me soothe. I felt like, I'm so good at this. I've got it down pat. And then I came home. There's no midwives. No. Alan doesn't know what he's doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And that first week when we were home, I looked back at a photo the other day and I'm like, I don't even recognize that woman because she was so scared. Like it was such a, like now, you know how I felt? I think because I was in the hospital so long, I was so conscious of how he's sitting on the bed because they come in, they don't knock, they just walk in and you're like, I got to look like a good mom. I got to look like a good mom. Like I was being watched and monitored. Not that they were, but in a way they are. But when I came home, I was like that. And I'm like, no, we can't do this. And now a few weeks in, you're like, you know what? No one's watching. I know my kid. I know that he has reflux and he's better on his side. And I know you're not meant to do that. I'm sorry. That works better for him and I do it. You know what I mean? Like now I'm just, molding it to what works for us. And I feel better that way. I don't feel...
You're trusting your instinct.
I'm trusting my instincts and I don't feel as nervous about people watching me. And well, that's funny you said about instincts because I bought goat's formula straight away for him because I couldn't breastfeed. I knew I wouldn't be able to. I have one inverted nipple, one flat. We're all about overshare here. I hope the fella's not listening to this episode. I presume they didn't even press play when they saw the subject of it. I knew I'd have to bottle feed, so I bought goat's formula. And I had a friend say that, she had 3 kids and they had reflux and they were good on the organic goat's formula. Me, of Sicilian background, I always preferred goat's milk to cow's milk. I just love the taste of it and I can get some tummy troubles with cow. So I bought one of each, put him on the goats. Every nurse was like on the phone was, why is he on goats? No, you got to get him on cows. Like they put like extra, Isabella's going through the bookshelf. It's all good. The nurses were like, they put additives and extra things in the goat's milk to get the protein up so it's not as natural. Put him on cow's milk, absolutely constipated and screaming. He would get 1 rock hard pellet poop once every 2 days. I switched and I was angry with myself for not trusting my instincts. Switched him back to goats. 1 full wet nappy a day.
Yep.
So much better. So much healthier. So like I felt annoyed. I had Ash on and she said the one piece of advice was trust your instincts. And she got annoyed with herself when the midwives told her to do something. Same thing. Like as much as I adore the nurses and midwives, I do want to listen to my instinct in some respects.
Definitely.
And I just knew he would follow through with my gut issues and he has.
Yeah. But no, definitely. You do have to listen to your gut instinct and you need to build your own confidence as well by trusting that instinct.
Yes, that's true. That's what I always say about teenagers. That's where they struggle because their parents aren't placing faith in them. And it's like not until you get out as an adult and you place faith in yourself that you have confidence. So I believe that's what it is. We're rearranging the bookshelf, Isabella. Just having a good look through. Okay, talk us through what changes can occur in the body during this time.
A lot. There's a lot going on in the body. So you have to remember you're pregnant for 9 months. Your hormones, your body, even down to like the physiological changes of your body are developing over the space of 9 months.
Yeah.
So it's now going to take 9 months, if not more, to get back to how you once were. So, there's a drop in hormones. The drop in hormones from pregnancy to postpartum is the biggest hormonal drop a woman would ever go through.
No, I don't doubt it. What hormones drop?
Basically, all of them are changing, particularly estrogen and progesterone.
Yeah.
So it's the biggest drop in postpartum. It's bigger even more so than what a woman goes through in perimenopause. So you will never experience a drop in hormones as big as what you did.
See, I would think it would be menopause because of the hot flashes and
opposite.
the... Wow.
Opposite, yeah.
Wow.
So it's not only that, then you've also got your digestive system. So you have to think all of your organs have all been shifted and moved around from the growing womb. Do
you know what? I didn't know about ab separation until I was pregnant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of mum chats, and like, even though I've had friends who've had kids, we don't really talk about mum stuff that much. I had no idea.
Yeah, so you have to think like your womb's growing, so everything else needs to shift and move as well. So,
and I've always had such a strong core, and I remember when I came home, like I feel like my body's, you know, recovering well, but it freaked me out, like seeing how mushy everything was down there, and I was used to like hard abs.
Of
and
course,
like it was my favorite part of my body and my back, and it's like they're both so different now. It's weird,
definitely. Also, too, your uterus is contracting, so your uterus is trying to go back to its pre-baby size,
which I believe is better when you breastfeed, right? Each suck,
so each
contracts
each time you breastfeed, it helps with the contractions.
So I didn't get that.
But also, too, it's like all the hormonal changes. So things like oxytocin, like the surges of oxytocin every time you see baby, cuddle baby, kiss baby.
Oh, so every time the interaction. So I know it's like that when they first come out, like in the newborn bubble. That's like, I just was so in love. I had to have him on me. I don't know if you remember me saying, I don't want to breastfeed, I want to do that. It's great, because I always thought that, my breasts were a very erogenous zone, and I didn't want anything that wasn't sex related. And when he was born, I had to have him on me, or I was like, give him to, and I just wanted to feel his skin against my skin. And that's oxytocin, right? Making me feel
Definitely.
like a drug fiend. Like,
but
I had
it's also you're both bonding too.
Like
that skin to skin contact.
And so that continues throughout, does it?
It does, yeah. Like
Each
even
time
now, I know with Isabella, if I go in of a morning and wake her up, like I straight away get that oxytocin.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, even of a nighttime, I breastfeed her before she goes to bed. And so it's, I come out feeling so like,
a bit of a drug high.
In love.
Yeah, but it is. It does feel like that, doesn't it? Yeah.
Definitely. But then you're also getting changes like hair loss. You're starting to go through, your body's starting to utilize a lot of the nutrient stores in your body for recovery. And so, if you're not replenishing those stores, then you're starting to burn through what's already in your body, so you're more prone to things like postpartum depletion. There's a lot going on, even mentally and emotionally as well.
Well, let's touch on postpartum depression. So do a lot of your clients bring that up with you?
They do. Postpartum depression is quite common. There's a few issues that I've discovered with postpartum depression. So first one being, you get screened for your postpartum depression at your 6-week checkup.
Yes. Yep.
And I don't know about you, but for me it was a computerized test where my doctor opened up basically like a multiple choice questionnaire on her computer. She left the room.
That's got a name. Oh, mine was on the computer. They gave a printout, but that's got a name, that test.
It's a screening basically.
And
it's things like, do you still find things funny? Do you still laugh a lot? It's basically, firstly, I don't think it's a thorough enough screening. Someone can very much so have depression and still find things funny.
Yeah.
But secondly, postpartum depression for a lot of women actually doesn't start to kick in until you're maybe 8 weeks to 4 months.
Okay, tomorrow is my 8 weeks, and I was so smug with how great I was feeling. Like, I'm feeling great. I'm so, back into exercising. And but he's got colic and reflux, so we've had a lot of crying and screaming, particularly 6 to 10 p.m. And the last few days, I feel scared that it kicked in, and then I was texting my friends going, I can't FaceTime you today. Like it got me. I feel like, like it's something you're trying to outrun. So I have a history. I used to get depression a lot. I haven't for years. What I've had the last few years has been anxiety. So that's something that I seek treatment for. And I know sort of how to regulate it with myself as well. I felt that familiar dark cloud come back the last few days, and it's so not him, because like when I look at him I feel the joy, but I feel like it's the routine, it's the you feel that lack of help sometimes, because as helpful as your husband can be, it nearly always comes down to you if they've got to go to work,
Of course.
And I read the other day that the percentage is much higher for mothers of colic and reflux babies to get postpartum depression, because you feel that nervousness to take him out in case he'll vomit, and like I just feel edgy and nervy, and it's more the routine. It's like every day I try to get out of the house, and we do a big walk every day, but it's that rush of the next feed, and I just feel under pressure. And then I thought, well, maybe it was PMS because I'm not breastfeeding, so perhaps my period's coming back. I don't know, because
you're also in a position where the adrenaline from the first 6 weeks is wearing off.
Oh, it does feel like that.
Yeah, so the first,
I feel slower paced than I did.
Yeah, like the first 6 to 8 weeks, you are running off adrenaline.
Yeah, it did feel like that.
Which is why you feel like you can handle the sleep deprivation a lot easier in maybe the first 6 weeks or so. And now it feels
I was also
so much
losing
harder.
weight, and now I feel it's plateaued because I don't feel as like I'm running off steam. Yeah,
there's a lot that starts to happen around this time, and like you said, you're in a situation where you've got this colicky baby. That's hard. Even like having a baby constantly crying or going through witching hour or whatever it is they are going through. That's hard, especially when you're not regulated yourself.
It's hard. It's hard for the dad. It's hard for the mum. Having someone cry or scream in your ear for 2-3 hours straight is very hard.
It is, absolutely.
It chips away at your soul. And then he'll do one little smile or one little laugh and you feel like, oh, I can do it. It's fine.
Yes.
It makes up for it. Yeah, you know how I had a very sort of difficult pregnancy. Like it was good in some respects, but due to the neuromuscular disorder. But I feel like everything about me is really opposite. And I had hair loss in my pregnancy and my hair's growing back thick and fast postpartum.
Wow, really?
Irene saying, it's meant to be the other way around. I said, Irene, which part of this pregnancy has been normal? She said, nothing. I'm so odd. Like it has to be the opposite way around. So I feel like I'm blossoming more now and I felt depleted in my pregnancy. So odd.
Yeah, wow.
What should our diet include and not include postpartum?
So postpartum, I personally like to recommend more of an Ayurvedic style. So things like, your warming foods, your congees, your oatmeal, your stewed fruits, anything that's warm, anything that's hot.
You did mention to me you can't have anything cold, and I do love a good boost juice smoothie. Why can't you have cold things?
I would say for the first 4 weeks. I know some people do love it, but I would say strictly for the first 4 weeks, stick to your warming foods because that's what's helping your digestive system get back on track.
Okay.
So,
well, thank God I gave birth in winter. And, my acupuncturist, he's Chinese and he says the same thing. You should never have cold or raw. He's always saying, do not have smoothies, do not have raw cabbage. Everything should be cooked and warm.
Absolutely.
It is better for your digestion. I feel it digests better.
It is. And so basically what you want to be doing in those first 4 to 6 weeks is having foods that are easy to digest, which is always your cooked foods, your warmed foods, but also easily absorbable nutrients, which again is coming more so from the warming foods. So, having something like a slow cooked beef stew over, salad, Thai beef salad or something.
Yeah.
You're going to be pulling a lot more nutrients from that because the slow cooking of it locks in the nutrients. But then you're also able to digest it a lot better because it's a softer meat.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I think also when you're stressed, I never feel like chewing food. I'd rather have something, like a soup or a smoothie or something. So I guess that makes sense that you don't have to chew and digest.
Yeah, and you want to be ensuring that you're eating lots of variety of foods as well. So you're not just kind of, you haven't just bolt cooked maybe one meal and eating that continuously. You want to be making sure you're eating a variety of different things.
Varied, right? If anyone's watched that gut health documentary on Netflix, I think they mentioned something like 35 to 40 different fruits and veggies throughout the week. So I have a tendency to, a lot of gym people meal prep and you just have your sweet potato, your broccoli and your protein. And so now I'm trying to include different vegetables each week just to give that varied. What else do you include? Like oily fish and stuff like that?
Yes. So for the first kind of 4 weeks, I would say more of like a slow cook sort of style, soups, congees, really liquidy based foods. Then from about the last 2 weeks of your postpartum, so from weeks 4 to week 6, then start implementing things like, your cooked oily fishes.
Okay.
Salmon is something that's great. Even going back into eating more of like your egg frittatas, those sorts of things. Still easy to digest, but they're still offering you lots of different nutrients. So you want to make sure that you're still having things like your DHAs, so, all of like your omega-3s, your fatty acids. You want to make sure you're eating high iron foods.
Yeah.
A lot of fibrous foods as well because there's a lot going on in terms of
gut
constipation.
Health. Yes.
And those sorts of things.
It takes a while to get that back to what it was.
Definitely. And like also too, during this time, you want to make sure that you're sticking to your prenatals. So if you were taking, I'm guessing most people would have been taking your prenatal during your pregnancy, continue on with that for the first 12 months postpartum.
Right, with like a folic acid and Bs and stuff, right?
Yeah. Even like calcium, iodine, selenium, zinc, magnesium, which is everything that your prenatal should contain. Basically, you want to try and replenish those stores that you've lost during birth, during the recovery. And like I said, it takes you 9 months to grow that baby. It's going to take you a longer time to recover from that baby.
Absolutely. What else would you recommend that's not diet-based? Are there certain lifestyle changes you try and encourage your clients to implement?
Absolutely. So I always go off what's called the 5-5-5 rule.
Yep.
So it's 5 days in the bed, 5 days on the bed, 5 days around the bed.
Oh,
so basically the first 15 days of your postpartum should just be purely based around you taking it nice and easy, nice and slow, ditching all sort of housework, cooking duties, anything like that, and just purely focusing on the bond between you and your baby. So it's you resting.
And recovery, and whether it's C-section or natural birth, right?
Exactly. And a lot of my midwives and physiotherapists and things like that always said that the best way to repair tissue is by laying down. So whether you've given birth via C-section or a natural birth, you want to try and repair all of those tissues.
Honestly, this is why I think Isabella has a lot to add. I truly think that's why my recovery has been so quick. When I got home, everyone's like, take it easy, like physically. And I'm like, I feel great. Like my body, I'm so loving being back and exercising. But I truly believe it's because I laid in the hospital bed for 5 straight days. And I've had friends that were booted out, some who gave birth in like emergency C-section in the height of COVID, and they needed the beds and were booted out the next day. I, 2 days later, tried to stand up once to go to the toilet, turned white like a piece of paper and had to sit down because I was so dizzy. And they're like, go back to bed, we'll try again tomorrow. It wasn't until like day 3 or 4 that I was moving again.
Definitely. Like you lose blood giving birth, whether it is by C-section or by natural birth. But then also too, you bleed for, you've got the lochia that kicks in, which can be up to 6 weeks. Yeah. And so you're losing a lot of iron. You're also losing a lot of fluid. So it makes sense that, once you stand up, you do have that hit of dizziness.
Yeah. But you definitely need that time to recover. And I think that's what was good for me. So
yes.
Get your husbands to do a lot of the housework.
The other thing I would recommend as well is not returning to any exercise until you've spoken with your doctor or a physiotherapist.
And at least 6 weeks, right?
At least 6 weeks, yes.
I did ask that in the hospital and I said, what about walking? And they said, you can walk every day. And I did every day. And that saved my mental health, like putting him in the pram and going out for a beautiful walk along the beach every day. And that felt good. Oh, having said that, the first few days I was exhausted, but even like my legs were like, I can't even do this walk for 10 minutes. Like it took so long to get back into it. And I don't know if it's because I didn't use the muscles so much towards the end of the pregnancy or just, But
look, some physiotherapists do recommend like slowly increasing your walk. So it's like the first, week, maybe you're focusing on just walking 10 meters.
Yeah.
Then, the next week we're going 20 meters. And
I would pick 30. A different mansion and I walked to that mansion today and then the next day 5 houses up and I would gradually increase it each
Definitely. Like once I had Isla, I remember returning home from the hospital and I was about 5 days postpartum and I tried to go for a walk. I got maybe 5-10 minutes into this walk. I should not have been walking because I had not stitches, ready. I was not ready, and I just remember getting to like the corner of this busy road thinking, oh no, like how am I going to get home?
Yeah,
and
scary.
Like, it is, and it's a scary moment. Like
maybe start by walking around the block so that you're close to home if you have to.
Absolutely. And so this time around with Isabella, I had a coffee shop that's maybe about 25 metres away. And so I walked down to Salisbury, but I made sure I took my husband with me. He pushed the pram and it was basically just me learning how to be back on my feet again.
Oh, great. And I like to use the pram though to lean on it. I found that was sort of like my rehab.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever works. But it was sort of like, the benchmark of, okay, let's just try and walk here and I'm not going. No,
that's true. And I definitely walked with Alan because you just feel unsteady on your feet, don't you?
You do. You kind of feel like a baby giraffe.
Yes.
You're learning to walk again.
Though? I also felt nervous having this child and like I'm a real dog person, but any dog that comes near me, I'm like, are they on the leash? Is their tail straight? Do they look friendly? I'm so conscious that I have to protect this little human. So I felt nervous being out without Alan.
You become hypervigilant as well.
I've become insanely cautious and nervous of everything. I love to travel and now I say things to Alan in the middle of the night. I don't think I can ever fly on a plane again. It just feels too dangerous. I've watched too many of those air crash investigation shows. I am nervous of everything. And I said to Alan, no more open ocean swimming. The sharks are coming closer to shore because of climate change. We are only swimming and his eyes are like, oh my God. Yeah. And I'm like, rock pools and pools. I am nervous of everything since he's born. Like I feel very mortal. Like this is how I imagine in the Vampire Diaries they would feel if they ever went human again.
Oh, yeah.
You're like so used to being when you're a teenager, you feel invincible. Like you walk home in your knee-high boots at 2 a.m, you don't care about anything. And now I'm like so conscious Okay, so you were mentioning how it's like 9 months of your hormones changing. You're saying it takes a lot longer. I read the other day that it takes a full 2 years.
2 years.
Is that how long it takes to recover?
It
But
does.
having said that, do you ever really go back to what you were, or is it the new norm, hormone-wise?
Hormone-wise, you can, yeah.
You can? Hormones can return?
Yes.
Is it
It's just that.
Is it the younger you give birth, the better shot you have of recouping? Because I was 41.
See, this is a hard one to question. This is a hard
Because I could go
question
into
to answer.
menopause any day now.
That's right. But it's like everyone's different. So, they do say women of, around the 40 age mark, the hormones do start to change.
Yeah.
But not every woman. There's some that's going to be below the average, above the average.
I like
whatever.
to think my body still thinks it's 32-ish. I've tricked it into thinking that.
But it is true in saying that the younger you are, your body does recover differently to someone who is older.
Yeah.
But I still do believe if you give yourself a really good 2 years, and during those 2 years you're nurturing yourself, you're nourishing yourself, you're doing all the right things, your hormones are going to adapt.
Well, I would ideally like a second child. So I need to kind of not wait that long. But I remember the obstetrician was saying at the hospital, I have to wait at least 18 months because of the C-section. And I was like, oh man, I'll be 43. If I were to fall pregnant straight away and give birth the second time, I'd be 43, which people have. But I'm not attached to it. Like ideally that's what I have in my mind. I would love to have two because I grew up, my brother and myself. I was the same with trying to conceive of him. I was like, whatever happens, happens. I'm not like, I don't want to control what the universe has in mind for me. So if it's just Leo, I'm still grateful. If it's another one, great. But I feel like being on maternity leave financially, I need to wait 18 months anyway. And also I want that time with him. I would feel like I would miss out on bonding with him if I went straight into looking after a newborn again.
Yeah, of course. But also too, like you have to remember hormones are slow changing, whereas nerves are quick changing. So I really do believe a full 2 years is a good sort of benchmark to give yourself. But in saying that, I mean, there are some women who fall pregnant within the first month of giving birth. And so it's like back-to-back births.
Yeah.
It's more so about how you nurture yourself more than anything, I believe.
Yeah. Well, we had a good lecture about birth control. And I was like, I've been with Alan like 9 years. I was like, I haven't thought about birth control in so long. And then the other day, Alan's like, oh, well, I guess we better get condoms. This is a major overshare. And I'm like, he's like, I don't want to go in and buy them, so I did an online Woolies order. And no joke, one item was out of stock and I got the screenshot. It was the condoms and I was doing a 2 a.m. feed and I screenshot it and sent it to him going, guess which was the only item out of stock at Woolies this week? But you don't think of, when you've been with someone so long, birth control just feels like another lifetime ago. And I didn't like myself on the pill, so I won't be going back on that. So we'll figure it out. You mentioned before it's not just the birth of the newborn, but it's also the birth of the mother. I love that line. So talk me a little through that.
So I'm going to talk from personal experience here. When you've just had a baby or when you've stepped into that role of a mother, a lot changes for you. Your perspective changes, your priority changes. You're now focusing on this little baby and keeping them alive. And it's like you just change in every way you thought you never would.
Yeah.
And you're becoming a new person.
It is a new person, yeah.
Steph as a mum or Latoya as a mum is very different to Steph pre-kids or
completely
Latoya pre-kids.
different, yeah.
And so you get, how can I word this? You're more strict with your time. You don't want to waste time on silly things. You also don't value silly things anymore.
Your values change. I think that's what it is. They might not have seemed silly before.
Definitely. You as a person change as well because now you're this role model for this child.
Yeah.
And as the baby grows and they become their own person, like they're looking up to you. You know, you want to give them everything you possibly can. You want to do the best things for them and you want to be the best mother for them. And so what's your experience been?
It is. And I feel that way. I waited so long because I was scared that my priorities would shift and my career would change. But it's worked out better than I thought it would. I felt like once I met him, it doesn't feel like a hindrance to my career. In some ways, it feels like he's added to it because it's changed my perspective on things. Like the singing gigs, obviously, I'm not back into them yet. That will come. But with other things, like I'm feeling almost more creative, just in a different way.
Absolutely.
Perhaps I was in my masculine and running off steam, and now I'm more in my feminine being and just looking at things a different way. So it's changed. Yeah, it's just changed me a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And for the career thing, absolutely. I was the same. I really was career driven, and I really, had in my mind what I wanted to do career wise. And then when Isla came along, it challenged that and it changed that, but it also, it created my career. I now have a career looking after mums and
that's right. You find a new layer.
You do.
Maybe I was clinging to who I was when I was younger, and I'm not her anymore. So maybe I've found like a different audience and a different, just a different part of me. But I think also it's created a different layer of my personality, and perhaps I'm just got a bit more emotion and compassion or something now. I don't know. I just I feel gentler.
Yeah,
less
absolutely.
like angry, staunch Steph who's ready to argue with people, and more like seeing things from different perspectives now.
Definitely. And like, when I had Isla, I birthed her, and then 6 months later I birthed this whole Virtual Nutritionist business.
Yeah,
when she was about 6 months old, COVID hit and the world changed. And so how I ran my business changed.
How did you find that? Every COVID mum I talked to liked that.
I did. It was definitely a time of the world where things were scary and no one kind of knew what was happening, and
for sure,
and that sort of thing. But it meant my husband was home more.
And you didn't have to explain why you didn't want to go to places. You were in your newborn bubble and enjoying it, and you knew you didn't have to catch up with people, and you didn't have to explain that.
That's right. And I also didn't have to worry about timing of naps and things like that because like we were home, so like everything revolved around her and what she needed.
I liked lockdown.
Yeah,
I felt
too.
rested. Yeah,
I did too. And it meant that the three of us really got a good amount of time to bond.
I think it was great for dads. I think
so
years ago dads didn't have that time, and it sort of shifted the landscape of work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like it shifted how I run my business. Like beforehand, I was running around to different gyms and I was in and out of here and in and out of there. And then all of a sudden, the only way to sort of connect with clients was online.
Well, that's it. I think with all industries, we had to learn to adapt and be more virtual, be more online. And it was sort of make or break for some industries, perhaps. So
definitely. Like I know some mums struggled in that COVID time because they didn't have family support. It was just them and the dads, and being a first-time mum with no one else around you, that can be quite daunting.
Okay, because I'm hearing more good experiences.
Yeah, whereas us, we had a beautiful experience. I can't fault it.
You got a nice house too. That helps. Were you in that house?
No, we weren't. We were building that house, but
okay.
It's a whole other story. That got delayed because of COVID and blah blah blah. But
well, where can everyone find you if they want to know more?
So my Instagram handle is @the Virtual Nutritionist,
and I'll link everything in the show notes so everyone can go there too.
Thank you. And then I'm also at www.thevirtualnutritionist.com.au.
I was on your website last night. It's a very good website.
Thank you.
I was just complimenting you on it. I like to ask this of everyone. What is something you'll be doing in the next week to fill up your cup?
So this sounds very counterproductive and a little bit crazy, but what I've been working on is trying to wake up an hour before my kids. So
that's...
Yeah,
that, absolutely.
I mean, it means you're waking up a lot earlier, but it's like that 1 hour of you just having you time, which means by the time the kids get up, you're already, nice and calm. It's a calm start to the morning. It's a slow morning.
Even with Alan, as excited as I am to see him wake up, I tiptoe and I'm like, please don't wake up yet. If I hear the bedroom door open, I'm like, no, I'm not ready. I haven't done my meditation. I haven't, All right, thank you so much. We'll have you back on to talk about some different aspects, but it was good to cover postpartum. I know a lot of the listeners are mums, so it's really good to cover that. And it's very important to take the time to nurture yourself in that recovery and not just jump back into the swing of things. So
absolutely.
Thank you, my friend, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, everyone, for listening, and make sure you take some time out and do something to fill up your own cup. There is no resource more valuable than time, and I thank you for spending your time with us today. Your voice is so important, and we would love to hear which topics you would like discussed in future episodes. Please reach out via Instagram @CanIGetARefill podcast or on our private Facebook group to let us know. If you enjoyed this or previous episodes, we would be so grateful if you could please subscribe, rate, and review to help our voices continue to be heard. Catch you in the next episode.